if it's consecutive, actually there are a lot of possible computing support which can be provided, because together with the interpreter, we probably can have another small team doing the transcription, and then of course the interpreter can always look at what has been transcribed, and the translator also can translate, and then it can be published for certain audience to look directly into the result.
Or you can do it without the interpreter at all.
The interpreter probably will be the one monitoring the quality. It could be at the end. Whoever participated will produce a result, and the interpreter will do a quick check to make sure that for that particular event, it is appropriate. So in this way, the interpreter won't be loaded with all aspects of interpretation job. You have to listen, you have to jot down, you have to translate. I think interpreter is the most challenging job, and you have to be done definitely quick enough. So if certain kind of combination with computing support behind, it could be done in a different form or different mode. But of course, it all depends on the current demand of the interpreting market and what form they can accept this new way of interpreting. And especially,
I think we have to consider the workflow of the interpreters and how these useful tool sets can fit into their current workflow to help them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially now, there are a lot of interpreting is done remotely. They call remote interpreting. So the video is anyway captured properly there already, so it can be processed directly. So just now, the second part, the computer-aided translations, apart from these interpretations usage scenario, of course, that too also can be used for the typical translations job. Especially,
I can see how useful it is for translation and transcription, because it is quite direct. I mean, like what you have shown us in the demo earlier.
Yeah. So it's basically trying to improve the interface, so that is what you see, what you do kind of situation.
Joshua, can you share with us like your how do you work? Like, do you work on Microsoft Word? Do you like open two windows and then
for translation
from here to there? Yes, for translation.
Yes. Normally that's how I do. Like you say, two windows. Like what I did earlier this morning is I have the PowerPoint open on my left, and then a Word document on my right. So in between these two interface, I would also use the online dictionary whenever I need to. So if, let's say, if I encounter a Chinese word which I'm not familiar with, then I would have to look up on the internet to look for the right translation. It could be, previously it was Google Translate, but like Dr. Tang mentioned earlier, DeepTL is much better now. So that's what I'm using now. So so it's just working between three windows.
Okay. Do you use any Word plugin to,
like what?
I don't know, maybe like dictionary or Whether there's any proofing
I
tools.
think no.
Mm.
Proofing tools, let me see. Just the typical grammar check in Microsoft. But yeah, I think that's the one. That's the only one.
Okay. So if there's a tool that can help you juggle with these three windows, like maybe you can just do everything in one interface, reduce the need of juggling, that would be useful to you?
That would be useful, of course. I think at least from what I can see earlier, you can have the dictionary inserted into the whatever software it is, then that will be helpful. But the source, I will still need the window. I mean, if it's PowerPoint, so I still need to open that. Unless it's the video, like earlier the earlier demo.
Okay. Okay.
But from my experience, right? The challenging part of the computer assisted translation tool is always the memory, the wording, the phrases, especially when you are working between two languages, which are very different in terms of grammar, like English and Chinese. So it is always not as helpful as it should be. So back to you, Dr. Tang, what do you think of that? And how is this this software different from something like Trados?
Okay, most of the computer-aided translation system, they actually spend a lot of efforts trying to capture the text, extract the text from any of the input document, so that you can work at their standards interface. And then after that, of course, they will output it into the format you want. So that will help you to take care of the formatting of the document. And at the same time, also, they will try to support the user with the glossaries, compilations, such that if in the future's you work on this type of document, they will be able to supply you with this glossary to start with. So the longer,
so you don't start from scratch.
Yes, normally they don't, unless there's a new user, new domain. So the capturing of this glossary and translation memory over time is what making this tool become more and more usable. Because the lookup you were mostly able to find from the glossary. So it will minimize your need to go to the dictionary. And at the same time also, it will help you maintain the consistency between translator. If there are multiple translators working on a particular kind of text, then this glossary will enable the translator to double check in between each other for a particular term, how they translate it into. So for example, like the system I showed just now, immediately the system will be able to tell you this word have been translated into this by whom and who. Which sentence. If you want, you can look at the parallel sentence and see whether is it right or not. So in between the translator, they will be able to coordinate in this way. So the same also at the phrase level, multiple word level, and the sentence level. If there are inconsistency, the system will be able to highlight to the user. So this is what the collaborative aspect supported by this software. And
I think that is very important because nowadays a lot of projects, I mean, how they operate is they would delegate, I mean, the project sections to different translators, and they work as a team. So it's good to have a consistent check error function.
But actually, most of the current computer-aided translation tool, they are still not able to do the proper alignment as I showed you just now. So for them, it all depends on the user to manually create the glossary And then for the translation memory lookup, it will just show you a lot of sentences, and then you try to check which one is useful. So I can do this is because we use the SiSTeC technology, which enable us to align the sentence at the word level. And based on that, we can actually derive a lot of translation memory lookup as well as glossary lookup automatically. And it could be also improve the translation automatically. So you don't need to worry about what are the glossary or translation memory. You suddenly have a better automatic translation system for you after you have made addition for a while. So that is what we normally call it as a sub-language empty. You do editing, and then the system will capture your editing to fine-tune the automatic translation behind. So over time, you notice that, hey, why the automatic translation behave like what I'm translating. So you don't need to do anything. That one is the most convenient one to the user. So especially like the interpretations service, you definitely want to have this, because over time, you probably notice that for a particular speaker, they are likely to repeat the idea everywhere when they talk. So for me, I'm going to talk all the while missing translation, natural language processing. So the terminology and also the sentence used by me will probably, after you interpret for 5 or 6 times, you can even anticipate what I'm going to say. So in that situation, the interpretation speed will be automatically improved over time. So these are the supporting computing supporting behind which we are trying to develop in order to support the interpreting situation where time is critical. And then for translation is collaborative in between parties, how the glossary and translation memory will help them to maintain consistency. Other aspect, I don't really work on it because I know the other tools, they are doing fine on it. So I will probably just collaborate with them with a server with all this API. So they can incorporate this facility into their current framework. In fact, like Mr. Chiu, they have a word-based grammar checker and also translations, automatic translation environment. That
ours is mainly the spelling checking and grammar checking. Our translation, well, that's a very primitive one that only links to the Google Translate. Yeah.
You can always add in more functionality by calling an API somewhere easily without implementing it. So existing framework can always look into this API to see how it can be useful to their current workflow. Yeah, so this is what we are working on. And for the past 10 years, I actually tried to introduce this to other ASEAN countries. So hopefully this also can be implemented for Thai, Laos, Myanmar, Philippines, whatever. Because these are the languages which actually, unlike English, Chinese, you will find that the translation is quite okay. But for Myanmar, Thai, Laos, or Khmer, the parallel text Google used to train might be limited. So that will require more automatic capturing from the usage in order to improve the automatic translations over time. That's why I work with mostly Thai and Myanmar, all this language pair.
Just now, when you did the demo, it was between two languages, right? What if they are multiple speakers and you need to change the languages settings? Can that be done easily?
Oh, multiple speaker.
Yeah, let's say if there are three of us now, and the three of us are speaking in different languages. If we were to do the transcription and the translation, are we able to switch between different languages easily?
Okay, this one's at the moment, the automatic speech recognition tools, some they try to detect the language and then transcribe accordingly. So that one, if they are able to provide that kind of output, of course, then will be easier for us. We will just let the user improve whichever parts in whichever language they know of. This one's yes, can be done, but it needs fine-tune the workflow a bit. But the other way around will be easier.
Yes.
If, for example, we talk in English and others would like to listen in Chinese, Japanese, Korean, or any other languages, we can always support that by adding more translator. So, for example, just now it's English to Chinese.
Yes.
We just add another translator to improve the English into Malay. Then we will get Malay. So if we want to publish it in many languages, that can be done quite easily. So that one is okay, but the scenario you mentioned need to investigate and see how the workflow can be done. And in fact, most of the speech recognition tool, they are able to identify speaker also. They call it diagrammatic, whatever. So in the transcription, they will tell you this is speaker A, this is speaker B. So if there are multiple speakers, they will be able to separate the transcription according to speaker. And that is where they can always do automatic language detection and then transcribe accordingly. The tools now is because of the transformer ability, they can do a lot of fantastic language processing now. They can also do summarization. So for example, after publishing for 5 minutes, for example, then we can instruct the system to do a summary for this 5 minutes and publish to the user as well. So the user who are late, they can just, those attending the event who are late, they can just look at the summary. So a lot of advanced tools can be applied to assist.
I'm about to lose my job very soon.
Not really. I tell you, those who are losing the job are those who do the teamwork. But all these tools, eventually they will just able to provide you the first draft, no matter how advanced it. Then the translator or the interpreter is the one who will be able to have a look and make sure that things doesn't go wrong too much. And then still provide the same service to the user. But they can probably now provide more services. I don't know how is the demand of the translation and interpretation now. Is it more than what the interpreter can do?
Overall, the demand is very high. I would say in Malaysia because we use multiple languages on a daily basis. And even if when I work for the overseas clients, because I mean for clients in America, in UK, we are very cheap labor. So they will come to us, they come to Southeast Asian to look for interpreters, and especially nowadays when they can do everything remotely. So a lot of I would say a lot of my peers are working for such language service providers overseas. So I can see how the software would help and assist the process. Maybe not so much. I mean, yet in terms of interpretation, but translation and transcription definitely. I can see the potential. Yeah, interpretation, I think there's still barriers. Like you say, that the more or less 10 minutes delay, I think that would be a big challenge. Because if you are doing, let's say, if it's a meeting or what I've done before, like a medical consultation, or even a police call, I mean, you can't delay even for a few seconds.
Yeah, sure. At the moment, mainly to support the. In fact, I developed this system because there is a demand from Myanmar where I visited. They go there, meditate, but they cannot understand what the monk saying. So they say, whatever you can do, as long as I can understand it, will do. Delay for whatever minute is fine. So for talk, speech, it probably can still acceptable.
Yes.
Especially if you can go to multiple languages, to Japanese or Korean, they were happy. I
think for a talk, yes. Yeah.
But actually for services, I have another aspect which I always try, keen to try on, because especially for Malaysia contact, as you mentioned, especially for Penang as well. You just walk into USM, you will find many who are actually good in Chinese and English. They might not be translator, they might not be trained as a translator, but certainly with certain support of the tools, they can actually do reasonable first draft with whatever improvement, especially if it's in their field. So if they are studying management, if it's a management text, they probably will know what is the best word to translate. So here is, if you do know there are needs somewhere, we can always identify this translator, I call it just to translate, just translator. They just translate based on their current bilingual ability and also their domain. And then, for example, if you know there are certain demand, instead of you try to serve them alone as a translator, you can actually take advantage of the result produced by just translator, just to translator, and then you more of review the quality and handling the delivery of the job. So here, if we have the support of this just to translator, then the translator can now take advantage of this result if it's useful. And that is what I'm trying to test, whether this kind of translation can be useful or not. For example, like
you say just to translator, it is a team of people, or
normally students.
Students, okay.
They won't mind taking 10 cents or whatever and do the job. So you go to university, you just recruit some, you provide this tool, and any job, they will just do the first round. Okay.
Also, there'll be a tool for them.
I'm thinking of using my tool to support them.
Okay.
So that the group will be able to always produce the first draft. And then for experienced translator like you will check whether this first draft can be of use or not, whether it can help you to speed up your delivery so that you can take more job. Then it can be done together for any job, especially in the situation where the language pair is very rare. For example, Chinese to Lao. I don't think anyone can easily quickly find this kind of translator. So what
I don't know any.
Huh?
Yeah, I don't know any of them.
Yeah, what I'm actually trying to work out is for my partner in Laos, of course, in the university, normally university are easier for you to find good just the translator. We set up another team there for English to Lao, Lao to English or English to Lao. So that here we have Chinese to English or English to Chinese. If there is a demand which is Chinese to Lao, then we will team up the two pair and then knock out whatever which is acceptable for delivery. So for rare language pair, this is another thing which I am very keen to explore. And because I know of this research center or university of other languages. So that's especially like delay interpretation. Normally time is critical, so they can sacrifice a bit of quality. So as long as there are people able to check through and produce some interpretation acceptable, people can still use it for the interpretation's requirement. Of course, the translation also. So here is to bring the level of support instead of just the computer-aided translation or machine translation, but also just to translate outcome with human, just the translator kind of editing. And we know in the university, if you pay them whatever amount acceptable, they will be happy to work on, especially when the tools is friendly enough. But of course, in the front end, we will depend a lot on the experienced translator who know the demand to check what are the language or what are the domain to work on. And they are able to get the translation job or whatever services. So in this case, for example, like you, with your experience, you will become front end to identify potential demand. And then the back-end system will try to train for that domain or get just the translator to improve it quick to support your need. So all this kind of thing is a matter of trying out, then only we know whether it's practical or not. But from my end, I have this advantage of the university student as well as different language pair and the tools. So Mr. Chu, are you interested to plug in the API?
Well, if there's a demand, we can definitely give it a try. And I think the crucial thing is still how good we can fit into the work with the existing workflow of the translators. so that there's this friction in the for them to adopt the system. Yeah. So
like your case, then we'll probably have to tell the user that you have to use the one Azure Microsoft environment. So that's the SiSTeC will be in Microsoft. You can also do the translation for PowerPoint, right? Grammar checking, translation, not just Word.
Actually, for translate, we only have the translation tool for, I think, Word. We only have it for Word.
Only Word, huh?
Yeah, but it's not difficult if you want to extend it to PowerPoint.
Yeah,
it's doable. Yeah.
So meaning the user will probably have to limit to the usage of Microsoft Office. Then they will get the lookup of the dictionary. They will get the grammar checking. They also get the glossary and translation memory support for translation.
So what I'm imagining now is like it would be a window pane, you know, the pop up the pane on the right hand side. That and then inside that pane would be the UI that we see Dr. Tang demonstrate just now. So well, maybe something like that. But I think we need to think further. There are a lot of details that we need to work out, and we really need to study the workflow of the translators and their practice, their habits.
Actually, a very simple interface could be you still use back the same interface, but every time the user translated a sentence, you send to my API server, then I will be able to detect what are the changes user have done to the automatic translation. And then next round, when the user call Google Translate, instead of deliver the Google Translate to them, we improve it and then only pass to them. So in this way, the interface have no difference, but the user will find, hey, why suddenly Google so smart?
Okay. So we route it through your API first.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
So that no changes of interface.
But we still need to provide them the function of making improvements, adding to the glossary, all those, right? Because they need to do that, only the thing can improve.
No.
Or am I misunderstanding?
As long as your system is able to capture the sentence they have. At the moment, I assume your interface is the user will work on sentence by sentence in the Microsoft Word and submit the sentence to automatic translation, and you will deliver them the automatic translation result, right? Or
actually, my system now is very primitive. The whole chunk of text I throw to Google Translate, and then Google Translate will return the result, and the user will copy and paste it back.
Okay, so you allow the user to do the whole chunk.
Yes.
And then you will display in another window.
Google
Translation result. And they will take it and paste it wherever they like.
Yep.
That can be done also, not a problem, as long as you can actually capture back whatever they have edited.
Okay.
The best situation is you let them do sentence by sentence, and instead of delivering them a whole chunk of automatic translation result, you recognize their text and split into sentences so that they can do sentence by sentence. Then you'll be able to capture just right the sentence, the automatic translation sentence edited by them.
So you can actually help to enhance the glossary, or what's the purpose of doing that?
Okay, the glossary behind will be hidden to the user already.
Yeah. But the
whole process is still as shown just now, but
yes.
instead of display the glossary and translation memory to the user to help them, now improve the automatic translation for them.
Yes.
So hopefully over time they will find it useful. Why suddenly Google Translate becomes so smart, knowing what I need to edit?
So the plugin, or I don't know what's the correct word, should be able to extract the original text into, let's say, shorter sections, and then have them translated. Is that how it works?
To be safe, probably behind.
Yes.
For a particular user group, we might do it manually to train the system for them, using the system shown just now to identify the glossary and whatever, so that the user, when they use it, they already use an improved version. So that can be arrangement also. If we know that a particular organization using that one Azure is doing a lot of translation, so you can recommend to them, okay, instead of using Google Translate directly, we can also fine-tune Google Translate for you. So we take some of their existing translation and fine-tune, do the fine-tuning. All this depend on the current customer, how they are like. It is for organization that is always the best scenario. For single user, yes, probably we will let them choose the glossary translation memory. And then over time, they will find the translation get improved. So they do it by themselves. But then the interface will have to incorporate this glossary and translation memory lookup. It could be like what Mr. Chu said, another window pop out. But then they have to make sure the job is done sentence by sentence, so that the system is able to capture it.
Well, the sentence by sentence part could be a little bit difficult to implement, but I think we might need to think about how to crack that. Yeah, unless we provide another interface that map the sentences. Otherwise, if we allow the user to work in the usual Word document space, I'm not sure whether there's a way for it to map the sentence back to the translation or not. That might be something we need to think about.
Yeah, like what you said, separate it would be probably easier. Anyway, at the moment, they cut a paragraph and then submit to translate, and then you pop up a window with the result and they copy and paste that to their system, right? Now you have another interface to analyze whatever paragraph they submitted into a list of sentences, and then allow them to edit the automatic translation result using this framework, and then you generate back a paragraph for them to paste back. In this way, yes, it will be much easier to control. It's one simple way to add in this additional template for the user to do the editing of the automatic translation. The easiest one is you do training behind, fine-tuning behind, and let the user group refer to a better automatic translation. Actually, for most of the computer-aided translation tools, they have already that kind of framework already. So for them to add in this API is easier. Yeah, they normally already do it sentence by sentence. But I think whatever, there's always simple way to do it. Then for the just the translator, they can now use that one Azure, for example. For the fun, you probably can use that one Azure. Have you tested Mr. Chu's that one Azure?
I don't think so, right? Because if he's not majorly working in Malay.
It can be done for English, Chinese, I think. But without the the grammar checking.
Yes.
Yeah. But
So when you are designing this software, are you looking at are you targeting any particular market segment or audience?
Yes, actually, I'm targeting to set up as an API, and then as you said, for the existing CAT tool, once it is matured, of course, existing CAT tool will easily, if they are find useful after tested, then they can always call my API already. That is for CAT tool. But actually, my interest is more for setting up the just to translate service. Instead of providing them API, I provide them the just to translate result, so they can make use of it immediately. So my tool will be mainly used by the just to translator. And then in between all these ASEAN languages, some of it is so difficult to find translator. So that is what I'm more interested to explore. And of course, the other one is to do the interpretation with just to translate to see how certain kind of talk or speech or whatever online streaming, live streaming or whatever can be translated with just the translator support. Then it can be probably quite acceptable in terms of cost. Now a lot of people don't do it because it's too difficult to find interpreter and also a bit costly to them.
Yep.
Like the Dharma talk, everybody know I need, but how to find the interpreter?
And yeah, even if you can speak the language, I mean, you need to have that kind of knowledge.
Yes. Normally they will ask those practicing to do the translation. So with this kind of tool, then they probably will be easier for them to volunteer themselves. Because for me, I'm probably going to spend some time with the ASEAN partner. Not just for this, but also to help them develop the parser, the part of speech tagger. These are the core tools which is critical for natural language processing of any languages. For English and Chinese is well established, but for some of the ASEAN languages is they probably have to do it seriously if they want to support natural language processing.
How useful are the current, let's say, things like Google Translate or DeepTL to ASEAN languages?
I would say most of the ASEAN languages, they have already automatic speech recognition. It's just that not much being used. And also, I don't know how is the quality like.
Okay.
So, yes, first is to try the Google automatic speech recognition and see
Yes.
how the quality like, so that we can anticipate what kind of fine-tuning needed. Google Translate also supports all ASEAN languages, but again,
Yes.
how is the quality? Don't know.
Yeah.
So that is.
I mean, the only one that I'm using is Bahasa, and I must say it's getting better. It's improving. But you still need a lot of work still need to be done. I think especially the speech recognition.
Yeah. Actually, speech recognition, they also have means to fine-tune it. Okay. So I'll probably come back to you all again if I completed. I think some of the lookups still not properly done yet. Once completed, then probably we can try to do the just to translate kind of scenario. So we will take one of the texts, and then I will try to look for someone who is not a translator and use the tool to do the just to translate. And then we will see how is the quality like.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And for Mr. Chiu, probably we will start with the simple one. Improve, fine-tune the automatic translation. I will try to API for that. And
we can have
a particular domain and then try to find and see how is the difference between Google Translate and this improved version of translations.
Yeah. If we can start with something simple first, the most basic of API, and then have a quick test.
Because we fine-tune ourselves behind. Okay, good.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, any others? If not, then we will try to set up another section once I have API done.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks all.
Okay, thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.